Sri Lanka's last temple elephants. Revered here as sacred, they are the shining lights of Kandy's Peraheras. They play a central role in the ritual parade of holy objects, or Perahera, as they are known in the ancient Indian language of Sanskrit. The cultural history of Sri Lanka would be unthinkable without processions involving elephants. Today, they bear testimony to the close bond between humans and elephants which began over 5,000 years ago.
Elephants are the only animal actually Sri Lankan use as a kind of a sacred animal in the religious activities, particularly Buddhist processions.
Elephants, in fact, are the main attraction. For most Sri Lankans, the opulent processions are a living cultural treasure, a link to the glorious past. Before the colonial era began in the early 19th century, there were well over 10,000 elephants in Sri Lanka. In the wild, this subspecies of the Asian elephant is now regarded as endangered, especially as there is hardly any wilderness left. Conservationists regard the loss of natural habitat as the main reason for the increasing conflicts which claim the lives of up to 100 people and more than 300 elephants each year. When humans take over natural areas for farming, they deprive the animals of the basis of their existence. So it's not surprising that hungry elephants then plunder plantations and even destroy houses. A viable elephant population depends on a general acceptance of the need for conservation. At present, around 65% of the elephants' distribution area is located outside Sri Lanka's national parks. They are forced to share this area with more and more people because over the last 70 years, Sri Lanka's population has trebled to more than 22 million. So what choice do wild elephants have but to seek a place on the edge of human society? Naturally, that doesn't apply to the remaining 130 temple elephants. When tens of thousands of pilgrims come to Kandy in July and August to visit the Temple of the Holy Tooth, they take center stage. A Perahera in which dozens of elephants play the major role calls for massive safety measures and a lot of expertise from those responsible for the parade.
My main task is to assess the bond between the mahout and his elephant. There is a deep emotional and mental level in this relationship between animal and human. The two must be in real harmony, like close friends or family members. The elephant must have total faith in the mahout and respect his authority automatically. It must not obey out of fear.
Despite this clearly close relationship, the way the elephants are kept has come in for criticism from animal welfare organizations. An elephant in chains is grist to their mill, even if it's unavoidable with regard to general safety. The fact that people can be in close contact with elephants here perhaps also contributes to a more tolerant attitude towards their relatives which live in the wild.
Only if there is perfect understanding between the mahout and his elephant will I allow them to take part in the parade. If a problem of any kind arises, the mahout must have the experience to retain control of his elephant. No one must suffer harm because of them. But we also have to guarantee the safety of the elephant. That is my greatest responsibility at the 2-week Perahera, and at the same time, my biggest concern.
For some time now, it has been illegal to take temple elephants from populations which live in the wild. They now come from dynasties of tame animals which have grown up with mahout families. In view of the rich bill of fare during the Perahera, they take a relaxed attitude to the streams of visitors and the hubble and bubble in honor of Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha.
The elephants are trained for precisely this task right from their earliest days. By the time they have reached the right age, they are used to all the surrounding circumstances. They can handle all the noise and the sounds associated with the processions. They are not even frightened by the torches and the lights. They have adapted to the ritual as an integral part of this culture.
Sri Lanka's most sacred relic, the Buddha's left eye tooth, used to be carried on the back of a very special elephant called Nadugamuva Raja. Its death in 2022 was mourned nationwide. After the Buddha's mortal remains had been cremated, a monk is said to have collected the left eye tooth and given it to the king of the Kalinga people in eastern India. In the 4th century AD, the tooth is said to have emerged in Sri Lanka. According to one of the many legends, it was hidden in the hair or in the hair clip of a Kalinga princess. Religious processions with elephants date back to Hindu traditions, according to which elephants epitomized the god Ganesh, half human, half animal. As heraldic animals, once owned by kings, they are still seen as the insignia of power even today. The Perahera processions are the showpiece of the ancient royal city of Kandy, which has experienced many changes of power involving Buddhist Sinhalese and Tamil Hindu rulers. Some of the faithful believe the basis for them to receive the Buddha's blessing lies in the multicultural concept of unity in variety.
Culture is the main attraction in Sri Lanka. We don't have theme parks, we don't have big hotels. What we have is the culture and the traditions. Whenever we take this Lord Buddha's tooth out, everywhere there's going to be rain. And it hasn't been raining for a couple of months now. We are not being blessed at the moment with the rain. But whenever this Perahera starts, we'll get the blessing back.
There is no doubt that in this case the wish is father to the thought. Since war broke out between Hindu Tamils and Buddhist Sinhalese in 1983, Sri Lanka has been shaken by one crisis after another. It has rarely found peace. In view of its impressive cultural richness and the country's manifold natural beauties, this is something many visitors from abroad find puzzling. Some of the crises are rooted deep in the country's history. Sri Lanka's British colonial masters preferred to place Indian Tamils in administrative positions. As a countermeasure, after independence, the predominantly Sinhalese governments decided on a path of Buddhification. It took this pearl of the Indian Ocean into chaos. Religious minorities, like the mainly Hindu Tamils, began to feel like outcasts in their own country. The Constitution of 1972 committed the state to protecting and furthering the Buddha Sasana as Buddhist doctrine is known. Barely a quarter of a century after the end of the colonial era, Buddhist dominance was thus set legally in stone. The realpolitik of state Buddhism alienated members of the religious and ethnic minorities. The radical liberation movement of the Tamil Tigers began an armed struggle which until 2009 brought civil war to the whole of Sri Lanka.
Mirror, mirror on the wall. I know who you really are. Can't hide from your karma.
Since then, the long-suffering population has experienced a never-ending succession of tragedies, such as natural disasters, terrorist attacks, pogroms against religious minorities, and, more recently, a state of emergency and state collapse, in the wake of acute economic and energy crises as a result of the COVID pandemic. The Church of St. Anthony in Colombo was the target of one of the devastating terrorist attacks of Easter 2019. Since the episcopal reconsecration of this national shrine, it has once again become a meeting place for religions. The coming together of Hindus, Christians and Buddhists sets an impressive sign for multi-confessional and multi-ethnic harmony and serves as a reminder of the common origin of the two major population groups. Tamils and Sinhalese probably settled on Sri Lanka at the same time, in the 6th century BC. The division into Buddhists and Hindus began in Mihintale. The small dagoba, or stupa, venerates Mahinda, a missionary who was a son of King Ashoka, the ruler of northern India. According to legend, it was here that he converted the Sinhalese king, Devanampiya Tissa, to Buddhism. At his palace in Anuradhapura, King Tissa lent architectural greatness to his new faith.
Anuradhapura is one of the oldest cities in Sri Lanka. So it dates back 2,500 years actually, back to Buddhism where it started. So this is one of the most ancient cities in Sri Lanka.
Above all here, the jasmine blossom, the joss sticks and the coconut oil lamps serve the veneration of the Buddha. They are offerings for the Sri Maha Bodhi, the sacred poplar fig of Anuradhapura. It too was a gift from King Ashoka. It is said that a cutting from the tree under which Siddhartha Gautama attained enlightenment was planted here in the 3rd century AD. The Bodhi tree is sacred to both Buddhists and Hindus. This too shows the historical link to Buddhism in India. At the annual Jasmine Blossom Festival in Anuradhapura, the focus is on another destination for pilgrims, the Great Dagoba. Initially, such buildings were shrines which held relics. The monks' orange robes symbolize the Buddha's life path. His followers should carry his teachings in their hearts. Each pilgrimage is merely a reminder of this, just like a statue of the Buddha. Many of the faithful come from neighboring, densely populated India, which is only a short distance away. But the COVID pandemic brought nature and culture tourism to a complete standstill. Hopes for the recovery of this economically so important sector rest mainly on the return of visitors from India. Because the ancient royal cities like Polonnaruwa are closely linked to Indian history. They were the target of military campaigns by Sri Lanka's powerful neighbor. Today, people here long to see as many guests as possible arriving from India and the rest of the world in order to create jobs. Consequently, many a pilgrimage to Kataragama is linked to the plea for a new job. That's also the case with hotel manageress Yewanti Adhikari.
Actually, I have grown up in a very traditional environment. all our villagers, including my parents, they all believed in Kataragama God, that when you start something new, you are blessed if you go to Kataragama. And if you really want to get something, so they go to Kataragama and then they ask for that, please give me this thing. And it is a custom that we expect that thing, whatever we request from the God. After some times, once we get that, if we really got that, we believe we got that because we went to Kataragama God and we requested for that. So they go and thank the God by doing certain puja. Next few days, actually it's going to be very exciting because for the company that I'm working right now, I have been working for 4 years. And I thought after working for 4 years, it's good enough to spend in one place. So now I'm on the move to a different company.
Saying goodbye to her parents is never easy for Jayanti. A pilgrimage always involves an element of danger. So her mother's blessing is more than just a gesture of respect. Even though Jayanti, like most Buddhists, travels by bus and not on foot like most Hindus, there is always a touch of uncertainty about going to Kataragama. So the first few meters on her father's bike give her a bit of moral support. Encounters with wild elephants are not unusual in Sri Lanka, but motorists are only in danger if they insist on taking a selfie with these gentle giants. Jayanti has no choice but to go through the Jala National Park. Most pilgrims have to travel through areas with wild elephants. Many cover hundreds of kilometers on foot, just like the Buddha did 2,500 years ago. Legend has it that one of his 3 visits to Sri Lanka took him to Kataragama, where he is said to have met the famous king Mahasena.
King Mahasena asked the Buddha for a keepsake of his visit to Kataragama. So Lord Buddha gave him some of the hair on his head. The king gratefully accepted the gift and decided to build a particularly beautiful pagoda as a worthy place to store the relic. Today it is famous as the Kiri Vihara, or milk-white dagoba. After his death, King Mahasena was reborn as the god Kataragama. That is the story of the deity who is revered nationwide as our patron god. He had the milk-white dagoba built while he was still king. Then he became a god.
Since that time, more than 2,500 years ago, elephants have been an integral part of ceremonies for Kataragama. Every religion represented in Sri Lanka takes part, irrespective of whether or not they believe in the Buddha's story, of his divinity, or other legends. Hindu pilgrims worship Kataragama under the name Skanda.
People actually coming from all over Sri Lanka and assemble here to celebrate God's Kanda or a Kataragama. In 15 days of festivity, they are coming here with the great devotions and great admire of God's Kanda and get his support and blessing for their mundane work. Kataragama is very important, not only singular Buddhist, Hindu, Tamil and even Muslims, Islamic, Sufi traditions very much present here. And also indigenous people with us. All major ethnic groups and religious groups assemble here to celebrate God's Kanda, his union of his mistress Wali Amman in this festivity time.
Not everyone wants to celebrate this legendary love story. Nevertheless, all the groups celebrate together in the same place and at the same time. The adherents of Sufi Islam are drawn to the burial places of their holy men, first and foremost Palkudi Bawa.
People saw Palkudi Bawa as their spiritual redeemer even in the 19th century. Ever since then, we have raised an Islamic banner to commemorate his coming. We revere his tomb as a holy shrine. Many settled here in order to be close to him. It is astonishing that, irrespective of their religious conviction, people undertake a pilgrimage here to receive the blessing of Palkudi Bawa and his message of peace.
Indeed, in Kataragama, the visitor feels like he or she is in utopia. Transported to a fictitious place in a time long ago when people didn't fight one another in the name of God.
Maybe 30-35 years I was here. Every year, Palkudi Bawa was coming, go there and doing for the meditation. The people want to come for the relaxing place, this place. They have some powers, but not only for the Muslim and for the Hinduism, Buddhism also here, Christians also here, all including for the community place. So that's the reason I like come to this place.
A Hindu priest praying in the midst of those who serve Allah. For a long time, something which today seems remarkable was an expression of religious diversity and practice.
The Muslims came when the kings were ruling Sri Lanka. The main reason to come to Sri Lanka is our spices. They arrived by boat or ship, not only in Gaul, but also in the coastal area. So that is why you see a lot of mosques and Muslim people. They had come with a lot of silver to buy our spices, and then they got married to the Sri Lankan Buddhist girls. So our great-great-grandmother is a Buddhist, and great-great-grandfather is from Morocco.
The fortress of Gaul, with its famous cliff divers, is a temporal meeting place for all religions, ethnic groups and social strata. Kataragama is its spiritual counterpart.
If you go to Kataragama, you find the Hindu temple, Buddhist temple, and also the Muslim mosque. And during the time of the festival, each day is specified for their activities. Mosque has a program. So in that program, the pilgrims who have come there,
People everywhere pray for unity. That's the actual heart of this multi-confessional festival. Religion is capable not only of dividing, but also of bringing together, as proven by this joint official opening of the Perahera under Sufi leadership.
All people are the same, irrespective of whether they are Buddhists, Hindus, Christians, or Muslims. Sufism teaches that a person's social or religious background is of no importance. We treat everyone as a brother or sister. We make no differences. People may differ in their way of thinking, their clothing, their language, and their behavior, but it is our belief that this in no way changes their basic sameness.
The Buddhist head of the temple complex finds similar words, as if he had already arranged to do so with the Caliph of the Sufi order. Ceremonially opening the Perahera by raising the holy banner of Islam is an innovation. It binds the Muslim religious community into the festival. According to the teachings of Sufi holy man Palkudi Bawa, the source of immortality lies in the mosque complex. But obviously, it can only be found by someone searching in their heart and soul, not in the ground. This reveals the interfaces between Buddhist doctrine and that of Hindu yogis. Here too, it is primarily about guidance towards self-recognition and self-redemption. But each person must choose their own path to get there. For devout Hindus, having their head shaved means keeping a vow and shows divine commitment. But Kataragama is also a fair for dreams and wishes of all kinds.
The way that we practice it when we come to Kataragama is we bring a puja vattiya, like with lots of fruits. And when I went to the fruit place, I selected a little medium one because I didn't want to go for the smallest one as well because I thought she could earn some money.
In Kataragama, you can easily feel lost. At any rate, it isn't a good idea to have too narrow a comfort zone when you come here. Tens of thousands of pilgrims engaging in a wide range of ceremonies and rituals are a constant source of new impressions which ultimately can overload the senses.
Personally, I do not like to come to places where it is very, very crowded. And also, when I was coming in, I felt like people have come to do these kind of practices in different ways because they have shaved their heads and some are dancing. It was a huge crowd.
Simply going with the flow seems to be the best policy because in Kataragama, all roads lead to Kataragama, or Skanda, as the deity is known to Hindus. The flickering flames are a reminder of his birth from the seed of Agni, the god of fire.
Whenever I come to a temple, like this kind of Hindu temple, I'm I have a fear. I somehow managed to go into the temple and offer the fruit basket to the god.
Kataragama, with his 6 faces, loves entertainment and gifts, like his 2 women, Valiaman, his mistress on the left, and his wife on the right.
Once I came out, I learned that people share fruits because we get half from the fruit basket that we offer, and people are sharing that. And I was so happy that people came and sharing, and they also did this to me. It's kind of a sign, I think, that I have done and I am blessed. So then after that I came out. I really feel I'm blessed.
The message here is that those who share their good fortune will receive even more. Some dance to Kataragama with a symbolic burden on their shoulders. With the Kavadi dance, they ask the god to free them or their relatives from a heavy yoke.
Yes, I'm so excited to see the Perahera because I have seen in the television, but not real.
Animal rights groups want to see the elephant processions banned. But with regard to the conflicts with animals living in the wild, from a conservation point of view, there is also a positive aspect to the parades. The Perahera elephants are rather like brand ambassadors for their species. The reason for a Perahera varies from place to place. In Kandy, it honors the Buddha. Here in Kataragama, it marks the god's annual visit to his mistress, Valiaman, known simply as Vali. Her place of worship at the far end of the extensive temple complex is the destination of the procession which the enamored deity makes every evening. The lovers' reunion lasts for 2 weeks, but the actual significance of the bond lies on a deeper symbolic plane. The love between Vali, the Veda princess, and Kataragama, the complex deity, invokes the integration of all social forces. Here, even the elephants are brought to their knees before Kataragama. At this moment, the royal elephant, as it is called, declares its readiness to become the god's mount. For good reasons, many Western animal rights activists reject any form of humanizing wild animals. But in Sri Lanka, temple elephants are regarded as the only worthy bearers of relics and deities.
In Kataragama here they use many elephants for actually carrying all these paraphernalias. There is what they call king elephant carrying this sacred casket.
Very few know what it actually contains. The casket is brought from the innermost part of the temple and secured to the elephant's back. It is the most sacred object of Kataragama, one which represents the god. The blessing of flowers is intended for the elephant and its divine rider.
Kataragama, of course, not sacred for the Tamils, Hindus and Sinhalese and Buddhists, but also indigenous people, Vedda. Vedda are the indigenous people in Sri Lanka, living in most of the remote areas, and they actually connected to Kataragama, the sacred site, because one of the beautiful daughters actually married to a god Skanda or Kataragama. So therefore they're part of that ritual. So they also play a major ritual contribution here in Kataragama.
When the procession with the statue of Kataragama begins, the Vedas move to the main entrance of the inner temple complex. There is still time before they make their big appearance. As the country's first inhabitants, they will also be the first to receive the procession by its later inhabitants. The axes identify them as the original owners of what was once a densely forested country. Their important role at the heart of the procession is a form of late acknowledgement. The complex symbolic world of the dances is comprised of religious and temporal elements. Preparation of the costumes and dances takes place all year long. At times, the sacred aura gives way to a carnival atmosphere. Animal demons, good and evil spirits, divine figures. Like the dance group in honor of Hanuman, the monkey god. They all dance to entertain the deity, the indigenous representatives, and thousands of onlookers. Some are probably more than happy not to get too close to the sacred tuskers as the Vedas who are waiting so excitedly. Folklore dance groups from all over the island demonstrate Sri Lanka's cultural diversity. In all the colourful hustle and bustle, the mahouts probably have the toughest job. The elephant keepers have to keep a close eye on their animals to make sure they're not feeling stressed. So far, serious incidents involving elephants have been very rare. In fact, the mahouts are probably the last of their kind. Since capturing and taming wild elephants has been illegal for some time now, the number of suitable animals has been steadily dwindling. When it's the turn of the peacock dance group to perform, the god is not far away, because the peacock is regarded as the divine mount of Kataragama. The bowl of incense with the holy ash from the great shrine is the last precursor. It tells the Vedas that they will soon be performing.
They actually normally don't like having one of their daughters as a mistress. They just want to stop him seeing their daughter. That is why they blocked his shrine right in front of the gate. And they were compensated by certain gifts. Then basically they allow the processions, or rather Kataragama deities, to move into the shrine of the Valyamman.
A scene of great symbolic importance, threatened by a bow and arrow. The powerful administrator of the Kataragama temple has to pay tribute to the island's original inhabitants.
The whole festivity actually dominated by the major ethnic groups in Sri Lanka: Tamil, Sinhalese and Muslims. So Vedda actually owner of the land, but they are not anymore because they are confined into the small villages in Uva and areas in the hill countries. So they are actually acceptance happening in the ritual arena.
The Vedas knew how to handle wild elephants, but there was hardly any way they could hold back the concentrated wave of immigrants from India. Like virtually everywhere else in the world, in Sri Lanka too, the indigenous population suffered. Today, the Vedas earn a living by portraying their former way of life for ethno-tourists.
50 years ago, some of our ancestors still lived like they did in the old days. Back then, we called ourselves Waniya Layeto, which means forest dwellers.
In the Veda pantheon, Kalu Bandara, the god of hunting, plays an important role. But when the Vedas need support of a different kind, they first turn to the Nayaku, their ancestors, and summon their help through song, dance, and offerings.
Once a year, some of us travel to Kataragama to take part in the Perahera and show that we still exist. We also bring offerings to Kataragama, our protective god, and ask for his blessing on our village. The Perahera is extremely important to us.
The thatched hunting cabin is part of the backdrop of the cultural village. The brick houses were built from the income from tourism. A handful of wild honey from the small forest area around the village is all they have left. Now, they are sedentary small farmers who do not own any woodland.
We live off the maize and vegetables we grow. If a wild animal appears by chance, I try to hunt it. I would like to live as a hunter like my father and grandfather. The sound of birds singing was so much better than the sound from the radio or TV set. That was still a real life, but now it is forbidden.
Even today at night, they still hear leopards, but the hunting scenes are staged. In the past too, Vedas only took from nature what they needed in order to survive. For centuries, they were the guardians of the forest. But they too are powerless in the face of the huge increase in poaching which soared as a result of the COVID pandemic. People who were hungry and jobless made their way into nature reserves which, because of the collapse of tourism, were virtually unprotected. Conservationists estimate that up to 600 birds and other wild animals were poached every day. Vedas know how to live with all wild animals far better than the rest of the rural population. In Sri Lanka, elephants are killed not for their meat or tusks, but to protect villages and plantations. The Perahera elephants have no idea of the plight of their relatives who live in the wild and are in permanent competition with humans for food and water. Every day they are bathed in the holy river, voluntarily, unlike some pilgrims. During the 2-week Perahera, Kataragama has to cope with the influx of hundreds of thousands of pilgrims. Feeding them all is a huge logistical challenge. Countless traders profit from the festival economy. The stand fees and other dues they pay go to the Buddhist clergy. Selfie sticks are bestsellers. Most pilgrims come in large groups with an experienced guide. Hindus see a ritual bath in the holy Manik Ganga, the river of gems, as spiritual purification, although the quality of the water is anything but pure. In times of great need, many fulfill a vow, for example in the form of a kavadi dance under the symbolic yoke of Kataragama.
I'm here with my elder sister. We live in Colombo, but our walk here began in Okanda and took us through Yala National Park. These are our Tamil friends from Batticaloa. They are Hindus and we are Buddhists. This is the 5th time we have made a pilgrimage here together on foot.
A group of pilgrims should form a perfect unit under a spiritual leader and avoid every form of ritual defilement through sex, alcohol, or certain foods.
Actually, more than any other cultural event, this is very unspoiled. For 3 months, we are strict vegetarians. We avoid any form of meat or fish or anything like that. And we get ready for the event. And when you walk, actually we walk from Kanda Devale up to Kataragama. That is almost 100 kilometers.
The following spectacle compensates for many hardships and permits an encounter with sacred elephants and a deity. The fireball swingers clear the way for Kataragama. They symbolize thunder and lightning, the weapons of the god, who soon appears in his worldly form, accompanied by Buddhist flags. Hindus and Buddhists have totally different concepts of the god and honor him under different names. Buddhists revere Kataragama as a protective god who is aspiring to attain Buddhahood on the path of perfect virtue. This is underlined by the elaborate costumes and specially choreographed dances. The Hindu male and female priests, clad all in red, see Murugan, the god of war, in him, or Skanda, the conqueror of demons. A Perahera must offer something for everyone. Its main principle is the integration of diversity despite all the conflicts between the Buddhist orders of monks and the Hindu priesthood. Everyone bows before the Kali temple. After all, the Hindu goddess Kali is the mistress of time. In the end, she kills not only demons, but also all the living. But before bringing death as a mother goddess, she also gives sufficient time for love. And that's precisely what this Perahera is about. Irrespective of whether visitors are Muslims, Buddhists or Hindus, they all accompany Kataragama to the symbolic union with this valley. According to legend, Valley was born by a doe, adopted by the Vedas, and finally raised to become goddess of the forest. Now she waits in her own temple house for her lover. The entire festival can be interpreted as the act of love. The dances, musical performances, and ceremonies are the foreplay. When the Vedas finally arrive at the temple of their Princess Valley, the divine bridegroom is on his way. Kataragama is riding to Valley's temple on the back of the royal elephant. Blessed with gifts of flowers, he, or to be more precise, the holy object which represents Kataragama, is carried into the chamber of his beloved. In the general participation in the lives of the gods, one religious element, bhakti, stands out. Bhakti is the path of loving devotion to a particular god or deity. In the past, dying on a pilgrimage was even regarded as a kind of entrance ticket to a better life and a divine blessing. But the visiting time for divine love is soon over. For the Vedas, that was the highlight of the evening. But for others, that still has to come. For them, a tough test lies ahead in the small hours. Vasana, the happy one, a royal elephant from India, is taking Kataragama back to his temple. Offering flowers and water is said to bring fortune and good karma. Although Hindus and Buddhists might express their reverence in different ways, tonight some of them will perform a dramatic joint ritual, a firewalk for which the festival is famous and which many fear. It manifests the ultimate readiness to make sacrifices in the bhakti faith.
The firewalk, very much, it's a Tamil Hindu practice. Nowadays, actually taken over by largely Sinhala Buddhists as well. So this is kind of a very Hindu bhakti religiosity, very much taken over by Sinhala devotees as well. They are doing in a very harmonious manner. All Hindus and Sinhalese now actually joining with this very exciting firewalk festival tonight. It's a very, very devotional act they want to show for their god.
Mediums in a trance invoke the favor of the fiery god. It takes hours for them to pacify the flames into a layer of glowing coals. Finally, in the early hours, the stage is set. To shouts of Hara Hara, hundreds take the dangerous fire test. Hara Hara means, O God Almighty, please end our suffering and grant us salvation. In his fire, the God, who will not tolerate inequality, unites the different social, ethnic, and religious groups. After all, gods are neither Tamil nor Sinhalese, neither Hindu nor Buddhist. They speak all languages.
Kataragama is the land of peace. Sri Lankan rulers must learn a lesson from. I think Kataragama has set a very good example for the country as a future model of Sri Lankan state. That's peace and love, kindness, and also living in harmony.
Perhaps this magical place, with its divine romance, even has a message for the whole world. It is only worth going through fire for love, because love is the foundation of every religion and every form of happy coexistence.